r/ask Reddit. What is a great example of a necessary evil? A lawyer defending an alleged rapist, murderer / pedophile etc. Yep. The fact is, everybody is entitled to an advocate. That's like one of the core pillars of the justice system. Mob justice isn't justice. It's just violence. The truth is that nobody knows the truth until the evidence is gathered and a decision is rendered from a court. For that to happen, you need someone to look at the evidence from both sides. After all that happens, a judgment can be made. The air in your bag of chips stops the chips from getting crushed on delivery. We all wish there could just be more chips, but you need that air. Pringles have entered the chat. I wish I had a daughter so there will finally be someone in the house who can reach inside of a Pringles can. The ability for the human body to feel pain, as exploitable as it is. Without this ability to feel pain, the life expectancy would go way down because people often wouldn't realize something was wrong with their body until it was too late to do anything about it. Pain is the body's natural defense mechanism to protect itself against further injury. Would be cool if we could filter it though. Humanity has actually come remarkably far on that front. We have painkillers, whole body anesthetic, and even local anesthetic that filters out pain only from specific regions. If we manage not to engage in a nuclear war, we will probably look back on the century or centuries we had them pointed at each other as being the single most important factor in not engaging in massive warfare every decade. People forget that the firebombing of Tokyo killed more people than Hiroshima and Nagasaki combined, and it was nothing compared to Dresden, and that was comparable to Nanjing, which was nothing compared to the Holocaust, which was nothing compared to the Eastern Front, in which an estimated 30 million people died. Before that, we had World War I, which set up the political and economic stage for World War II. Before World War I, we had various wars of colonialism that set up the imperial rivalries from Europe. After World War II, the entire world seemed to be teetering on the edge of another global conflict every decade that was only truly staved off by the possibility that the entire human race would be annihilated if such an event occurred. People on every continent have engaged in brutal wars ever since, but the specter of global war and the potential for nuclear holocaust has tempered these conflicts immensely. If we manage to outgrow the need to be pointing a gun at each other's heads, our great-great-grandchildren might think of us as having been silly, but they should have an appreciation that their peace is because we came close to ending it all. Edit. Dresden actually had far fewer deaths than Tokyo. This summary of mutually assured destruction brought joy to my policy professor Hart. Well written. High praise, indeed. Thank you. D&D villains. Hard to run a decent campaign without one or two of them. Edit. Thanks for the award. I used to run a home game with close friends and family, so luckily I never had that problem player or a murder hobo party, but never say never. I challenge you to just use a hero as a villain. Basically just take someone and give him a goal that arguably could also be a hero's ambition. Makes for the best peg. Half my campaigns with murder hobo PCS turn into this. The villain is just trying to stop this insane group of mass murderers from continuing their murder spree. Chemotherapy. Edit. I do not have first-hand experience of this, but thank you for the kind comments. To anyone going through it, my thoughts are with you. 3. I feel this one from my thinning hair to the soles of my blistered and peeling feet. Good luck, friend. Government. Freedom is beneficial for any society, but in order to function it needs some overseeing structure. Otherwise it descends into anarchy, which is associated with chaos for a reason. If men were angels, no government would be necessary. If men were angels, no government would be necessary. If angels were to govern men, neither external nor internal controls on government would be necessary. In framing a government which is to be administered by men over men, the great difficulty lies in this: you must first enable the government to control the governed, and the next place, oblige it to control itself. James Madison. Federalist No. 51. Sadness. You can't be happy all the time. It isn't healthy. You have to take the good with the bad. You learn to cope and move on from it. There can be no happy without the sad. This can also go the other way. There can't be sadness without happiness. I experienced happiness about a decade ago and now I've been sad for a decade. Depression's a beach. Not buying from puppy kitten mills. If you don't buy them, they're going to have a terrible quality of life, if they survive at all. But if you buy them, you're actively paying for the continuation of the breeding and putting more animals in that situation. It's a tricky situation and really tragic either way. I think this is a great example, very easy to understand, and barely up for debate. I don't feel the same way. I think you refuse to buy from them entirely. Some animals will die in the short term, but there are tons of other animals dying all the time just from overpopulation, crowded shelters, abandoned animals in emergencies, etc. who can be helped instead. We should do everything possible to end puppy mills. Edit. I seem to have misunderstood. I agree that not buying from them is a necessary evil. Hate to say it, but animal testing, no matter how many simulations we run, products still need to be tested before they're sold, especially medicines. Indeed, and happily the animal testing of products is being limited to real medical purposes in many places. I disagree with some regions requiring animal testing for importation and for cosmetics. For example, a shampoo sold in Europe might require animal testing to be sold in Asia. That seems a frivolous use. Demand an ingredients list, ban or limit certain chemicals, and stop hurting bunnies for the sake of consumerism. Some companies claim to be cruelty-free, then in small writing they add except where required by law. That means they are not cruelty-free. There are plenty wonderful brand cosmetics and household cleaners that refuse to supply China because they won't test on animals. Dove has gotten around testing on animals by setting up factories in China and manufacture according to Chinese regulations. It is really expensive to do so because of all the protocols they have to follow, but it allows for them to supply China and remain cruelty-free. There are a few other companies that do the same but not may because of all the costs involved. I believe their factories have to be in very specific locations, which adds to the costs. There is no excuse to torture an animal because there is plenty out there that is cruel-free. Walmart. Like, I get the whole big box thing pushing out smaller people. I really do. But when you're living on $850 a month, you can't go to that mom and pop grocery store and spend $20 for a gallon of milk and 2 loaves of bread. Husband and I live in the middle of nowhere. We shop at Walmart 30 minutes away because the local shop is almost 3x the price. Sure, it's fine for grabbing the extra generic brand of something we need and forgot, but I'm not spending $200 plus there when I can spend $75 at Walmart. Walmart is a big part of the reason people are living on $850 a month. Farting. It stinks and it's embarrassing, but we'd be in constant agony without it. I'd much rather a fart not come out the top. Thanks. It's bad enough smelling the damn things. Would you really want to taste it? Vintage Taco Bell, 2 nights ago. Farting distributes the agony so everyone around can share the burden. If you don't experience sitting down and being humbled, you're all the more likely to not only let success go to your head but to take things for granted. There was a camera plane called Necessary Evil that flew the Hiroshima atomic bombing mission. Appropriate name? Some would argue that without the bombs, there would have been an island invasion of Japan that would have cost far more lives, extend the war, and involve the Soviet Union and the Pacific. The US government bought enough Purple Hearts to cover all the projected needs for an invasion of Japan. We're still issuing them. They figured on so many injured that they're still using them almost a century later. Taxes. I read Texas at first and was ready for a spicy thread. As a Texan I did the same and my first thought was, what reasons might this person have for the necessity of my embarrassing state? A small loss of freedom in exchange for a massive magnitude of order life as any of us know it. All the technological advancements that make life longer, more pleasurable, and less dangerous all only can exist with some semblance of order. Anarchy is incompatible with society. So true on that first bit. It's why I never fell in with the ACAB crowd. Yeah, a lot of cops are ducking bastards and reform is needed, but everything would be a lot ducking worse if they weren't around. Anarchy sounds romantic, till it very quickly isn't. Anarchy is a doomed idea from the beginning. It is not a system. It is a lack of system. And when there is a power gap, One can be 100% certain power-hungry people are gonna try to fill in the spot. Anarchy will end with either tribalism or dictatorship. It is impossible to stay in anarchy long term. Killing in self-defense. To not be killed. Not exactly evil but definitely necessary. I don't think that killing should be considered inherently evil. Context matters. I don't know, but in the Engineer trilogy, a great low fantasy series in a weird Renaissance medieval mashup world, they call their war department the Department of Necessary Evil, which I always loved. KJ Parker, I enjoyed that series. It was a fun step out from the usual fantasy that gets thrown around. Prisons, jails. I am one of the loudest in lamenting prison abuse, but the fact does remain most people in jail are guilty of what they did, and a lot of them truly cannot function well in society. I grant there needs to be serious reform in how we treat prisoners, and even some preventative measures to try to save some, but it is true the unfortunate fact is some people do have to be locked away. Richard Pryor from Live on the Sunset Strip. I was real naive, right? 6 weeks I was up there. I talked to the brothers, you know, and I talked the eminent. Thank God we got penitentiaries. I asked this dude, why did you kill everybody in the house? The guy said, they was home. When it's for profit it's a problem. Healthcare, prison, and utilities are things that should not be for profit. To protect your country against war is to war. That 1 out of 10 dentists that doesn't recommend a product. If all 10 were to recommend it then you feel like something was up. I want to know that one dentist's reason for not recommending it. I feel like the commercials leave out vital information. Zoos. I hate the idea of large animals which would usually have large territories. Tigers, rhinos, hippos, lions, confined to a small space. And I hate seeing animals with large intellectual capacities. Elephants, large primates, dolphins, lacking stimulation. Unfortunately we as humans are failing them in the wild. At least in zoos with breeding programs they're kept safe and thriving. Also if I remember correctly they help educate and encourage people to care about these animals. I recall my art appreciation teacher telling us that it's very different to see something on a screen versus in real life when it comes to art. The way it's presented, its true size, the room it's held in and such. I think that applies to many things. And I think zoos provide that in a remarkable way and they're vital to ensuring future generations care about the world they live in and seeing its worth in a way that's tangible and understandable even, and especially, to children. Open bracket. Much like taking care of unrealizables and showing the off to people and helping educate people plays a vital part in the same way. I worked at a top tier zoo in North America. A lot of where their animals come from, especially reptile and birds, are illegal smuggling operations. The animals get confiscated and can't be released into the wild. Where are they supposed to go? This is also where I agree that the old style concrete cage zoos where animals have a pile of hay to lie down on should be shut down. Corners of doorways. Toes need to be kept in check. Animal testing. A necessary cruelty. Without the use of animal testing we would not have a lot of modern medicine. And if you hate it, please find a way to ethically work out elective human testing before animal testing and problem solved. Abortions. Nothing about it is cool. Nothing. It unfortunately is the lesser evil. It's incredibly sad that that is the lesser evil but society needs a lot of fixing. Nobody wins in abortions. As Jimmy from the West Wing said, it's a tragedy and it should happen less. But banning all abortions completely like somewhat is very plainly the wrong thing to do. Hi, I had an abortion at age 36. I never wanted children. My boyfriend didn't want children. And I'd made it through 20 years of having sex and not getting pregnant when all of a sudden my Apple Watch reminded me I should have started my period already. I took 2 sets of pills at 6 weeks and 4 days pregnant for $700. I'm 40 now and I've never regretted it. Not for an instant. To call abortions a necessary evil means they're evil. And I disagree with that. Working. Everyone hates it but we do it because we're forced to need money. That's and it's somewhat necessary unless you'd like to revert back to a Paleolithic lifestyle. Somebody has to unclog the sewers and haul off the garbage. And it's easier to talk them into it by offering them money versus forcing them into outright slavery to get the job. Yes. Done. And it's somewhat necessary unless you'd like to revert back to a Paleolithic lifestyle. People had to work a lot during Paleolithic lifestyles. Work isn't a modern invention. It's a modern word. We've been working to survive since life sprung from the primordial soup. War. War is hell. But if we all rolled over and let oppressors walk all over us, that would be far worse. A lamb can't kill a lion by behaving like a lamb. Money. Money is probably the greatest human invention of all time. If we were forced to barter the whole time, who knows how far behind we would be and how many would have died. Money has enabled us to streamline trade. Money is the most successful story ever invented and told by humans because it's the only story everybody believes. Not everyone believes in God. Not everybody believes in human rights. Not everyone believes in nationalism. But everybody believes in money. Yuval Noah Harari. There are some people who many would think deserve the death penalty, but I think should not receive it in order to preserve the principle of having no death penalty in case of wrongful convictions. I agree. And I would also say I do not believe it is wise to give the state the ability to kill its people. Military. Although not technically evil, it's definitely a necessity that many would deem evil at times. A wise king never seeks out war, but he must always be ready for it. Odin. I'll toss out the big one. Death. It sucks. I don't want to die. I don't want any of loved ones to die. But we can't and shouldn't live forever. Just imagine the world population if we eliminated death from cancer, infectious diseases, organ failures, etc. We're trying. And we've made huge advancements to the point that the human race has a net population growth of 100 million a year. Politics. We don't think about it, but eating. In order for your life to continue, something must die. Plant, animal or otherwise. Things have to die for other things to live. We all constantly agree to the terms of this contract every time we eat. We don't want to die, so we understand and accept that something else must. Death demands a sacrifice, and if we don't oblige, it takes us. Then something will eat us. Grass, bacteria, animals, anything. Feeding back into the cycle that we once ate from ourselves. It's cruel. It's insane. And yet we never think about it as much as we should. Prednisone. Most medical tests and interventions. Mortality. Imagine what would happen if you took the certainty of death off the table. It would be absolute insanity. Being a soldier. You may not want to kill, but you are trained to. You might have individual ideals, but you hide them to fit into the machine. Killing a home invader. Pest control. Mass slaughtering small creatures seems mean. I feel bad when whole colonies of adorable rodents or marsupials are injured or killed. But goddamn, have rats really wreaked havoc on society and infrastructure. The bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Every military strategist agrees they probably saved tens of thousands of lives because Japan was gonna fight till the end of the country. Government. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.